In the shadowy depths of the African savanna, there exists a spectacle as grotesque as it is mesmerizing. A solitary leopard, famed for its stealth and prowess, now marred by a ghastly wound unlike any other. This is no ordinary injury, but a horrifying cocoon of parasite infestation, a living shroud of decay. At first glance, it is a billowing mass of writhing filaments, simultaneously repellent and fascinating, pulsating with unnatural life. The leopard's once sleek, dappled coat is swallowed beneath a grotesque armor of silk-like threads, honeycombed with tiny holes, from which minute, worm-like creatures emerge and retreat in endless cycles. This macabre sight hints at a violent invasion beneath the skin, a battleground of flesh and parasitic survival. The culprit behind this cruel mask is a parasitic insect, often overlooked by casual observers yet devastating in its life cycle. Female flies, under the cloak of night, lay their eggs near the leopard's vulnerable spots. The open wounds, the tender places where skin has been torn from the violent wrestles of territory and prey. Once these eggs hatch, the larvae burrow deep, embedding themselves in the skin like malignant roots. Over time, the larvae secrete a webbing that hardens into a cocoon, a sprawling network that links the parasites together, creating a sinister fortress bristling with living bodies. These larvae feed relentlessly on the host tissue, secreting enzymes to dissolve flesh and blood, drawing nourishment while the poor leopard endures the escalating pain and spreading infection. The extent of the damage is staggering. Beneath the cocoon's web, the leopard's muscles waste away. The skin deteriorates into a patchwork of necrotic sores festering with bacteria and fluids. Each breath the animal takes drags oxygen through the infected flesh, stirring the larvae into frenzied movement. The infestation is a cruel twist of nature's design. Parasites that depend on a living host, but push that host perilously close to death. And all the while, the leopard, in the shadow-drenched depths of the jungle, where sunlight is a rare visitor and silence masks unspeakable horrors, a creature prowls, a jaguar, the apex predator whose sleek body conceals a grotesque secret. This is not a tale of majesty or power, but one of decay and parasitic invasion so vile it could unsettle even the most hardened naturalist. Imagine a once glorious feline, its fur a rich tapestry of dark rosettes, and amber eyes burning with primal intent. Yet, beneath this veneer of wild elegance festers a nightmare, its body riddled with bulging cocoons, grotesque cyst-like structures that pulse and twitch with the life of a parasite's offspring. This is the jaguar's hidden war, a living landscape of horror where the host and its invader are locked in a grim symbiosis, a dark web spun by evolution's cruel hand. This jaguar's skin bears the remnants of what looks like small, unnatural eggs or pupae tightly embedded in wounds, the result of infestation by a parasitic insect known in the scientific community as a botfly larva. These larvae have burrowed under the jaguar's hide, spinning cocoons within its flesh to develop away from prying eyes. The wounds we see are not incidental scratches or battle scars, but deliberate, surgically precise abominations drilled into living tissue by the parasite's young. The skin surrounding each cocoon is swollen and discolored, painted with sickly hues of green and yellow that ooze with infected fluid. The jaguar's powerful muscles, once instruments of lethal grace, now quiver with the irritation and pain of alien invaders feasting in the shadow depths of a remote jungle where life clings in fierce, fragile knots of survival. An eerie sight festers beneath the emerald canopy. Here, a magnificent leopard, once a shimmering embodiment of raw power and grace, suffers a grotesque affliction. A parasitic cocoon hive embedded grotesquely into its flank, a monstrous growth that pulsates with unsettling life. The wound itself is a chaotic tapestry of writhing larvae and silk-like threads, a living nightmare forged by nature's darker mechanics. It's a disturbing spectacle that disturbs the very notion of beauty and strength, starkly illustrating how delicate and vulnerable even the fiercest creatures of the wild can become. This horror is not a simple injury. It is a sprawling biome teeming with parasitic invaders that have transformed healthy tissue into a macabre nursery. Each cocoon, a silken sarcophagus, houses larvae in various stages of their grotesque development. These parasites, often tiny wasps or flies in their adult forms, infiltrate the leopard's skin, laying eggs that hatch into voracious maggots. These larvae then tunnel beneath the epidermis, feeding greedily on the living flesh and bodily fluids of their host. As the infestation progresses, the leopard's natural defenses crumble, overwhelmed by the sheer number of parasites and the toxin-rich environment they create. The cocoon hive itself is a complex construction of parasitic ingenuity. The larvae secrete a silky material that forms protective chambers, shielding them from the host's immune responses. This interwoven matrix festers with decay and inflammation, creating a swamp of infected tissue that oozes pus and blood. The wound swells grotesquely, its surface cracked and leaking, a bubbling cauldron of infection that smells faintly of rot and dry earth, an aroma both repellent and hauntingly primal. Nearby insects buzz voraciously, attracted to the scent, turning the sight in the dim, humid corners of a forgotten woodland, shrouded by the low creeping vines and the stifling echo of decay. There lies a story far darker than the whispers of the forest. Here, a dog, once a vibrant inhabitant of this wild tableau, has become the grotesque canvas for one of nature's more sinister phenomena, a snake infestation. Staring upon this scene is to witness nature's brutal indifference. A dog, a creature of warmth and loyalty, now contorted by a horrifying affliction. Its flesh marred by elongated wounds, serpentine in character, and disturbing in their pulsating life. The skin itself seems less a protective barrier and more a grotesque gateway, flayed in places where the snake's cold, scaly bodies writhe, sliding beneath layers of torn tissue and inflamed muscle. These wounds are not just injuries. They are the battleground of a silent war, where the invasive serpents have burrowed, nested, and propagated, feeding off the dog's once vigorous vitality. Close inspection reveals the nightmarish detail clusters of small, slender serpents, their scales shimmering with a sickly sheen, twist in and out of the raw, pinkish flesh. Their mouths, sharp, needle-like teeth exposed, probe hungrily, secreting enzymes that break down the surrounding tissue, making it softer, more digestible. The dog's fur is matted with blood and pus, the smell of putrefaction clinging heavily to the air, a testimony to the breakdown of what had been healthy skin and muscle. These snakes, opportunistic by nature, have transformed this loyal animal into a feeding ground, a living necropolis crawling with life that thrives on death and decay. The wounds pulsate with each heartbeat, the movement of the serpents creating a grotesque symphony of slither in the desolate heights of the Himalayas, where the air is thin and the landscape is a breathtaking tapestry of white and gray. A haunting tale unfolds. Here, we encounter a snow leopard, a creature of unparalleled beauty and grace, now marred by a grotesque wound, a parasitic flower embedded deeply in its flesh. This is not merely a wound. It is a grotesque reminder of nature's darker side, where beauty can be tainted by the sinister hand of survival. The flower, with its vibrant yet deceptive petals, has burrowed into the snow leopard's skin, feeding off its very life force. As it thrives, the once mighty predator becomes a mere vessel for this parasitic horror, a living canvas of suffering and decay. But the horror does not end there. As the snow leopard navigates its harsh environment, it becomes a host to another unsightly affliction, barnacle infestation. These small, hard-shell creatures, usually found clinging to rocks in tidal zones, have found in the dense twilight of the jungle, where shadows weave a tapestry of secrets and decay, there lurks a grotesque sight that defies the usual reverence we hold for majestic creatures. An elephant, once a titan of grace and strength, now bears a wound so horrific that it triggers a primal unease. This is no simple scratch or scar. This is a festering cavity, throbbing and raw, the skin flayed away to reveal pulsing muscle, glistening with a sickly sheen. But what truly makes this spectacle unbearable is the snake infestation writhing within. Countless serpents slither in and out, their slick, glossy bodies intertwining as they feast and breed in the dark sanctuary of the elephant's flesh. It's a nightmare skin crawl, a living horror that invites both fascination and repulsion. Snake infestations on an elephant might sound bizarre, but they are a chilling ecological reality under certain conditions. When an elephant's skin is breached, whether by injury, infection, or disease, it can become a fertile breeding ground for various parasitic snakes. These are not your usual venomous hunters. Instead, they are small, elusive species drawn to the warmth, moisture, and nutrients seeping from the wound. The open sore acts like a hive, an incubator of serpentine life, where baby snakes hatch within the moist confines of the injury, shielded from predators yet rampantly multiplying over time. The wound balloons into a bloated chasm of